citizens, and thanks for tuning in to episode 58 of the Nindie Nation podcast. I'm Jeff, and if you're new here, Nindie Nation is your weekly dose of all things independently developed for the Nintendo Switch. We'll run through every new indie game releasing on the Switch over the next week, as well as the best deals on the eShop that you can't afford to miss. And stick around because as we're all stuck in our homes looking for ways to stay busy, indie game developers around the world are showing up big time with some fantastic deals you won't want to miss. If you didn't notice, we skipped our regularly scheduled episode last week, and that's for two reasons. One, there was an Indie World presentation and a Nindie Nation episode alongside it, which was posted on the Nintendo Village podcast feed. So go check that out if you want to hear a little more about that great presentation full of games coming through this summer. The other reason is because of the Indie World presentation, we had the usual Indie World hangover, and the new releases were so consistently bad that as I was just about halfway through the podcast episode prep, I said, you know what, a whole podcast full of negativity just isn't what the world needs right now. So I decided we'd take a week off. Hope you don't mind. But we're back this week and ready to dive into a slew of brand new Nindies. Each episode of Nindie Nation posts to podcast feeds on Sunday, and if you head over to the Nindie Nation YouTube channel on Mondays, you can catch a video version complete with trailers and other footage from all of the games covered today. If Nindie Nation has satisfied your appetite for indie games and you're looking for other Nintendo-related content, head on over to the Nintendo Village for daily articles, weekly podcasts, videos, and everything else under the Nintendo sun. Nindie Nation is hosted by the Nintendo Village, and we thank them for welcoming us into the Nintendo Village family. You can find everything they publish at thenintendovillage.com, and don't forget to chat it up with all of us on Twitter at Nindie Nation and at Village Nintendo. Now, let's kick things off the way we always do. Before looking at next week's new releases, let's take a look back at the notable Nindies released without warning since our last episode. Here's what you may have missed since episode 57. Duck Souls Plus, like Dark Souls, but a duck, is a new fast-paced action platformer by Green Dinosaur Games and published by Ratalaika, similar to their own Daggerhood, and it can be yours for only $5. Wingia is a puzzle platformer that looks remarkably close to a poor man's Ori and the Blind Forest, and it's published by Indie Nova and released last week for $6.39. Sin Slayers throws a bunch of RPG mechanics into one dark fantasy world. You've got traditional JRPG combat, grid-based strategy movement, roguelike elements, and it seems like the developer Goonswarm just kinda threw in all of the RPG mechanics that they love into one game, and the result looks pretty neat. It's $20, and you can find Sin Slayers Enhanced Edition out now. And PlayStage Interactive, which has to be a play on the joke from the movie Step Brothers, released a $10 title that I think could benefit anyone currently stuck in their home. Appropriately named, Jigsaw Abundance is a collection of over 50 jigsaw puzzles with support for touchscreen or controllers, and it includes a bunch of different themes and even lets you build your own puzzles out of the images provided. Seems like a lot of content for, I guess less than the price of a normal jigsaw puzzle? $10? That sounds about right. And Dengen Entertainment, along with developer Stegosoft, just released a lovely traditional JRPG reminiscent of the PlayStation era or other modern indies like Owlboy. Arafel Enhanced Edition is only $14.99 and seems to be a great pick for anyone itching for a great new RPG. Granted, you've already played Cosmic Star Heroine, of course. And fans of the Mega Man Battle Network series, take note. Bet you weren't expecting that one, were you? Because developer Thomas Moon Kang has partnered with Humble Bundle to bring One Step from Eden to the Switch for $20. And this deck-building, grid-based strategy game should look very familiar to any fan of the Battle Network series that has long since been dormant. Throw in a theme that blends sci-fi and anime witchcraft and add a dash of roguelike elements, and One Step from Eden looks like a great new addition to the eShop as well. Continuing their trend of cheap and simple but clever puzzle games, Cubite Interactive has released Color Grid for only 49 cents. This puzzler will have you mixing colors and pointing reflecting beams of light at various terminals around a map to unlock the puzzle, and it embodies the idea of easy to learn, tough to master. I really like what they've been doing with all of these recent puzzle games on the cheap. And rounding out last week's notable Nindies is the title that was slated to be my pick of the week. Rhythm of the Gods is a rhythm-based side-scrolling runner similar to the Bit Trip Runner series. Developer Liarlark and publisher Nellyvision have brought a fantasy-themed runner that will have you jumping, dodging, and attacking to the beat of catchy tunes, and at only $5, it's an easy recommendation. It's funny, when I was building the rundown for last week's episode, over half of those games weren't even on the list yet. So if you're curious about what else came out last week that we didn't cover, there's a $10 slot machine game, a bunch of toddler-focused puzzles, and more time-wasting simulators, so the list that you just heard is definitely what I saw worth mentioning from last week. But if you think I missed something, let me know on Twitter at NindieNation. Now, with last week out of the way, let's take a look at the week ahead. Here are the new Nindie releases for the week of March 28th through April 3rd. On March 30th, What the Box? Is an online multiplayer shooter for up to 10 players in which players control living cardboard boxes hiding amongst regular boxes while trying to destroy each other. Developed and published by Bitten Toast Game, this little mix of hide and seek with online first-person shooting is only $2 and it looks ridiculous, but I'd be lying if I didn't say it looked like a great formula for a lot of laughs. And on March 31st, Stones of the Revenant is a retro arcade-inspired side-scrolling action platformer, it's a mouthful, by Chicken Cat Games for $9.99. You'll take control of one of 6 barbarian-themed characters, and you can bring a friend along for the adventure in 2-player local co-op. And that should probably keep your Joy-Con synced up for at least a weekend of good old fun on the couch. Originally a PlayStation 2 era title published by EA, the original developer Chrome Studios is bringing back their Ty the Tasmanian Tiger series with Ty the Tasmanian Tiger HD, which for some reason doesn't have a price listed, but I'm going to guess it's launching for $20. This is actually a really fun game that plays a lot like the other 3D mascot platformers of the time, such as Ratchet and Clank or Jak and Daxter. There's a bunch of boomerang-style weapons that you can use, and of course plenty of collectibles to keep you coming back. So don't miss out on this previously AAA title that is now a Nindie. The next release for March 31st is the first eShop title from developer Salt Castle Studio, and I can't tell what the heck it is. So let's go with the official notes accompanying this $12 title called Chapeau. Sounds fancy. Party hats go head-to-head, bounce, float, and zoom through the air in this frantic party game and bring back memories from the good old days of couch co-op. That wasn't much more help. Basically, it looks like a first-person shooter, but you play as hats and you score points by landing on other people's heads. It looks interesting. Another new challenger on the eShop, appropriately named New Challenger, is bringing their first title called Treachery in Beatdown City to the eShop on March 31st as well. And it looks exactly like River City Ransom or Double Dragon for the NES. It's got a hilarious premise where you're saving the US President, Blake O'Rama, from the nefarious Ninja Dragon terrorists, and it claims to offer a hybrid battle system that lets you build combos in real time, then launch special grapple moves after you've built up whatever meter it is that you're building up. This one also doesn't have a price listed, which is weird. Seeing a lot of that this week. But I do like the mix of real-time and RPG-style combat. I'd say if Treachery in Beatdown City launches at $5 or $10, it's probably one worth checking out. Zen Studios, usually known for simplistic puzzle games on the Switch, is launching something completely different with Operencia: The Stolen Sun, which takes the premise of old PC first-person dungeon crawlers and spruces it up with an admittedly gorgeous facelift inside of Unreal Engine 4. That does concern me a bit as there aren't too many Unreal 4 engine games on the Switch, so I'm curious how it will perform. but since it's turn-based, it'd probably only have issues with maybe longer loading times. Operencia is definitely going to be a niche title, but we don't get many classic first-person dungeon crawlers. In fact, there's a lot of them still releasing on the 3DS. So even at $20, it's a nice addition to the ever-growing library of Switch titles. And another genre of games which we don't see much representation of on the Switch is first-person shooters, let alone World War II first-person shooters. And without Call of Duty on the Switch, we don't really have any World War II zombie first-person shooters. But now, we've got 3 when developer Rebellion Interact launches Zombie Army Trilogy on sale for only $30. The graphics look great. It looks to hold a solid frame rate and supports a single-player campaign as well as co-op for up to 4 players who can customize any one of 8 different playable characters. So there's a lot here. If you're in the mood to mow down waves of Nazi zombies, Zombie Army Trilogy seems to provide plenty of content for you at a perfectly fair price of $10 per title. NN Games is an indie publisher who's been revitalizing long-dormant franchises, and they've got a highly anticipated release coming up on March 31st that's going to be fun for the whole family. Bubble Bobble for Friends, I think, is quite overpriced at $40, but this 1 to 4 player single screen arcade game is going to be a great time for anyone. And while I don't recommend picking it up immediately because of the price, I definitely recommend throwing Bubble Bobble for Friends on your wish list and picking it up when it goes on sale. Wales Interactive, in partnership with Good Gate Media and Little Jade Productions, are the teams behind the full-motion video games Late Shift and The Bunker, which are admittedly just kinda playable B-movies that saw a lot of success on the Switch earlier on in its life. Their next title is releasing for only $12.99 on March 31st and is called The Complex. Now, everything I can see from this game looks really cool, with a story that certainly hits close to home where a bioweapon attack hits London and starts making everyone sick. You, playing as Dr. Amy Tennant in a near-future but modern world, must interact with characters, choose who to save, and make important decisions that impact the story, delivering one of 8 different outcomes. Late Shift was kind of a joke in like a B-movie sort of way, but still a really fun time, and I think it actually performed well enough to fund The Complex, which looks like it's on track to easily be Good Gate Media's best release yet, and a must-buy for fans of FMV games. Moving on, we have 2 titles releasing on April 1st, and while I doubt there are any kind of April Fool's jokes here, they are both definitely fitting of releasing on April Fool's Day. The first is Whir Room by Sometimes You for 99 cents. Whir Room is a trippy, interactive art experience where you play as a hand inside of a world of clay, and it advertises itself as a 10-minute experience. I mean, the graphics are fairly impressive, but I'm not gonna lie here, it kinda looks like a lot of nightmare fuel. The other title on April Fool's Day is very fitting. Totally Reliable Delivery Service by We're 5 Games and published by TinyBuild is a hilarious and very ridiculous physics-based game for up to 4 players where you are responsible for delivering packages by whatever means necessary. Now, we've got a lot of these games coming out, including Nintendo's own Good Job and the other Moving Out that's recently released, but I think the hijinks in Totally Reliable Delivery Service certainly look the most bizarre and in turn the funniest. So this is a title I'm recommending for a fun time with your family during quarantine. It's safe for the whole family and it's only $15. And on April 2nd, we've got the big drop we always see on Thursdays and are kicking the day off with a title I am really looking forward to. The Otterman Empire by Tryhard Interactive is very much like Splatoon, a multiplayer shooter set in the third person, with game modes built around a lot of elements besides just capturing the flag or getting the most kills. Plus, it has a big focus on mobility and provides jetpacks to all players, which is always a plus. And it looks great. I'm hoping to get a code for this one to make some content for the Nindie Nation YouTube channel, so keep your eyes peeled for that. I'm not sure why so many games aren't showing pricing this week, but I'm pretty sure Otterman Empire is launching for $25. 8 Floor Games releases Lost Artifacts, which carries themes and stories similar to Carmen Sandiego, or maybe even like a kid's version of Tomb Raider. It plays like a casual strategy game with levels won by uncovering research, managing resources, or traversing an area. It might be a mobile game port. It kind of looks like it might be, or maybe a PC port. Definitely looks like it's made for touch or mouse input. But if you're interested, you can try it out for $9.99. Not sure what to think about that one. And Curious Expedition is a $10 roguelike that pulls influence from multiple retro PC titles such as Dungeons & Dragons, Civilization, and Risk. There's a lot going on here, and both the developer Manshine Mensch and the publisher Thunderful are relatively unknown on the Switch, but the game has been positively received since its 2016 PC release, and has even since received a sequel. You'll probably want to see a video of this one, though, before making a decision on if it's right for you. The publisher CFK continues to release a ton of games seemingly out of nowhere for the eShop. And this week, actually, their release might be the most interesting one yet. Masm, Jekyll and Hyde. I don't know what the Masm is. It's like capital M, A-Z, capital M, Masm. Masm, Jekyll and Hyde is an adventure game based on the 1886 novel The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It features a comic cutout style that looks a lot like Don't Starve, and it has a really cool, dark, Lovecraftian style to it. Not only that, but it launches on sale for only $12 this week. And Digerati drops a $10 Nindie that is just the essence of indie games, if you ask me, and I cannot wait to try it out. Snaky Bus takes the general idea of Snake. You know, that little game that you played on your Nokia phone 2 decades ago? Yeah, it takes that, set in a large 3D open environment, and makes you an out-of-control bus that keeps getting longer and longer. So you're driving like a maniac, causing chaos and continuing to get larger and longer as you try to avoid running into other parts of your body or bus as you snake through the city. I think Digerati's already got my $10 for Snaky Bus. This game looks like a riot. And for $15, also on April 2nd, you can check out Junk Jack, which is a 2D pixelated Minecraft-like world, which is detailed by developer Pixbits in such a broad scope, it's almost hard to explain what the game actually is. So I'm just gonna say it's like a 2D Minecraft, knowing full well that they would probably hate to hear their game referred to like that. I'm sorry. And Kairosoft releases another $14 time-wasting mobile port. This one's called Pocket Harvest, but remember kids, we don't buy Kairosoft games. And then Coconut Island Games, another Nindie newcomer, releases their casual arena brawler, Rascal Fight. You and up to 3 other players will duke it out in a cartoony arena that plays out kinda like a top-down Smash Brothers. In fact, this might be a deep cut, but I'd say it most resembles Power Stone 2 for the Dreamcast, with its fast traversal, contraptions in the middle of the arenas, and all the items at your disposal, and that in itself makes me want to check it out, although I don't know if it has much of a single-player mode, and I certainly don't know if the Power Stone 2 reference resonated with a single listener of this podcast. Let me know if it did. I'd love to know if there are more of you out there. Either way, Rascal Fight can be yours on April 2nd for $10.19. Looking ahead to April 3rd, the last day of our weekly release rundown is an award-winning indie that I've never heard of, developed by Jump Over the Edge and published by Fellow Traveler. This acclaimed story-based adventure called In Other Waters will see you as an artificial intelligence helping guide a stranded xenobiologist through the waters of an alien ocean. The game focuses on the wonders and mysteries of the water and straying away from violence as a main hook, which is nice, and it looks really unique. You'll spend your time planning dives based on the understanding of what's underwater, as well as exploring for secrets or just trying to chart your way back. And at $13.49, it seems like a nice escape for anyone looking for an adventure game to play over the weekend. Drift Zone Arcade is a mobile racing game port that looks like every other mobile racing game port on the Switch, and it's developed by Awesome Industries and also doesn't have a price listed, although this one might be free to play. I don't know. Drift Zone Arcade looks, fine, I guess. And our last new release this week is one I've had my eye on for quite some time now. Developed by Troglodytes Games and published by Cubic Games is an $18 twin-stick romp set in the 80s called Hyper Parasite. That's right, it's a twin-stick shooter. It also has procedurally generated levels, roguelike mechanics, and RPG elements. But it has a really cool hook too, as you play as a parasite who attaches to human hosts, and that really seems to change up the formula quite a bit. I like the way Troglodytes said it best, so I'm gonna let them speak from here. Invading a grime-encrusted dystopia straight out of the 80s, you're the monster the authorities warned about. Dragging your bloody tentacles on the grassy asphalt, you snatch body after body. You are the Hyper Parasite, an evil alien with a bone to pick with humanity just because it's fun. Infesting the sickest corners of the most ass-kicking decade, you must fight your way to the top of the pop cultural food chain in order to push the big red button and bring about the mushroom cloud of finality. Be the baddest, navigating the dangerous procedurally generated streets of a hopeless past in this tough twin-stick roguelike brawling SOB. And you can check out Hyper Parasite on April 3rd for $17.99. I know I will. That's a pretty good week yet again, huh? I'm glad we waited. Another little bit of everything for everyone, and those are some of my favorite weeks to cover. If you're an adventure game fan, I think The Complex or In Other Waters looks great, but my pick of the week is somewhere between Snaky Bus for the ridiculous action, the Otterman Empire for the Splatoon-like gameplay, or Hyper Parasite because I just love me those Nindie trifectas. But what about you? Picking anything up this week? Oh, did you pick up any of the recent Indie World drops like Exit the Gungeon or Skyrocket? Let me know on Twitter at Nindie Nation. And while you're at it, let me know how your quarantine is going. Are you playing through your backlog while you're stuck at home? I know it's not a Nindie, but I've been finally getting back to Octopath Traveler and diving in something fierce. I've also been playing through River City Girls and just finished Ori and the Blind Forest, and man, I recommend both of those games. They're both just so good. But before we depart for the week, let's see if we can find something to add to your backlog, because there are currently 594 games on sale over on the Nintendo eShop, and 160 of them are brand new this week. These are the Nindies we recommend through April the 3rd. So real quick, there are two wonderful controllers that are currently marked down significantly, but they keep going in and out of stock, so your mileage may vary. Hori's SplitPad Pro, the gigantic Pro-style Joy-Con replacement, you know, the one that has the Daemon X Machina markings on it, is $40 on Amazon, and I highly recommend it. It's got a great D-pad that's really comfortable. It doesn't have any rumble or amiibo support, and they only work when they're actually attached to the Switch, but I've been really happy with mine. And also on Amazon, 8BitDo's SN30 Pro and Pro Plus have been marked down to $40 and $45 respectively. These are the controllers that are shaped like the Super Nintendo controller and are extremely comfortable. They've got great battery life, rumble, connectivity to just about any device you can think of, and the Plus is the one that adds the grips on the bottom, whereas this standard SN30 Pro literally just looks like the shape of the SNES controller. With that out of the way, the first game that we recommend this week is Revenge of the Bird King. It's currently 1 cent, and you should buy it because it's worth 1 cent. It's a solid but quite janky side-scrolling action game with a pseudo-open world reminiscent of Zelda 2. And if you want to see more of it, we did a Let's Play over on the Nindie Nation YouTube channel, but trust me, even if you play it for like 30 minutes or an hour, come on, it's worth a penny. Check it out. And similarly, Jackbox's one-off title Drawful 2 is currently 9 cents and is a perfect game to throw on the TV and let anyone in the family play along on their tablet or phone. It's kind of like Pictionary, and it's a great way to have a fun time with others in your house that are already too close for social distancing. One of my favorite games of 2018, Donut County, is a 2-ish-hour quirky story-driven game with gameplay that's kind of like Katamari Damacy and is currently $6.49, which is 50% off and its lowest price ever. There's a little replay to be had after you finish it, but just know this game will probably get you 3 to 4 hours tops, but I very much enjoyed my time with it, and it's actually stuck with me quite a bit since I first played it over a year ago. It's got a great soundtrack too. For the adventure fans, one of the best there are is Night in the Woods. The story is wonderful, the characters are unforgettable, and as it's more of a visual novel or interactive story, the content is the most important thing, and Night in the Woods delivers as one of the best in the genre. It's currently 40% off for $11.99, but only until Thursday, April 2nd, so act fast. And Tangle Deep is a beautifully polished dungeon crawler in the style of a 16-bit RPG and comes highly recommended, especially when it's half off for $9.99. And Flinthook is another 16-bit inspired title, but this one's a side-scrolling Metroidvania-like, where the main gimmick is all around a grappling hook, which is sweet. And it's currently $8.99, which is 40% off and its lowest price ever as well, but this one's only on sale until April 1st, so really act fast if you want to get this one. Valfaris is a heavy metal, crazy gory, balls-to-the-wall, run-and-gun action game made by the team behind Slain Back from Hell. And while I haven't played this one yet, it has been highly reviewed across the board and has been on my wish list since its release last fall. Valfaris is currently $14.99, which is 40% off, and this might be the game I'm picking up this week. I swear, this podcast is a really expensive hobby. Maybe I need to get a Patreon or some ads for Raid Shadow Legends or something. Is that an indie game? And one of the highest rated indie games on the Switch is Hyper Light Drifter, an incredibly unique top-down action adventure. Hyper Light Drifter is currently half off for only $10. It's not the lowest price ever, but if this one is missing from your collection, it's a wrong that you should right. Also half off is Super Hydora, a fantastic retro side-scrolling shmup or shoot-'em-up that is one of the more accessible to pick up, but gets just as tough towards the end. And with its branching level design, you get a lot of replay out of it. This one also has 2-player co-op that really makes the game a lot of fun. Super Hydora is another $10 pickup that should not be missed if you're a fan of shmups. But if you prefer your shmups to be vertically scrolling, check out the Valfaris collection. It's a recent port and upgrade of 2 classic shoot-'em-ups that are much harder than Super Hydora, and certainly lean more towards the bullet hell genre. The collection includes a ton of extra content, including both games with different variants of each game, and so there's a ton of stuff packed into this collection, and it's currently a whopping 90% off for only 99 cents. It is hard to recommend this collection to someone who doesn't already like shoot-'em-ups, but if you do, you have to add Valfaris collection to your library. And before we wrap up, a couple of games that are on sale quite a bit, but are gems that you should check out for 99 cents. 99 Vidas, one of the best arcade brawlers with co-op for up to 4 players, as well as Mana Spark, a procedurally generated twin-stick action game with roguelike elements and RPG mechanics. I said it differently that time. I thought I'd throw them off. Darn kids. And finally, one of the Nindie Nation Let's Plays is for a little game called Vertical Drop Heroes that looks really janky, and admittedly it is, but I still poured over 30 hours into this simple 2D roguelike and had a blast the entire time. This is a great game for mindless gaming, or if you're just watching Netflix or listening to podcasts. Check out our video if you want to see more, or just pick it up because it's 80% off, which is also its lowest price ever for $1.99. And that just about does it for this week. I think we covered most of the genres you could find. We didn't touch puzzle games, but Tumblestone is only $2, and there's a couple of Picross games out there on the cheap if those are your speed. Otherwise, you shouldn't have trouble finding anything to play between all of these deals and the previously mentioned new releases. If you want to see some of these games in action, we've got Let's Plays, features, and a video version of each podcast over on the Nindie Nation YouTube channel, so check it out and hit that subscribe button if you like what you see. For Nintendo content other than the indies, check out our friends over at the Nintendo Village, where they're dropping daily articles, reviews, features, videos, and podcasts galore covering everything Nintendo. You can find them on Twitter at Village Nintendo, or all of their content in one place at thenintendovillage.com. And that puts the pin in Nindie Nation episode 58, so thanks for joining us this week. Especially in times like these, it's nice just to tune out and talk about games for a while, you know? Creating content for Nindie Nation is a great retreat from the real world, and it's helping me go a little less stir-crazy, so I hope the content helps you find some great new games to play as well. Stay safe out there, friends, citizens, and to any of the newcomers as well. Let me know what you're playing this week, and keep in touch over on Twitter at Nindie Nation, and we'll see you next week for episode 59. Until then, I'm Jeff, this has been Nindie Nation episode 58, and if you're stuck inside, which you should be, I hope we were able to help you find even more great indie games so you can keep your Joy-Cons synced.